I think the 20th century has largely been a pessimistic century, mainly because the things that have gone wrong have gone very, very wrong. When we co-opt technology and structure to facilitate what we want, we can do a lot more damage than we expect. The ability of despots to murder and subjugate their people in the 18th and 19th century was no less brutal, but it was much more limited because they were dealing with technologies of, if you like, they were dealing with analog slaughter, whereas within the 20th century, industrial forms of slaughter were developed, and whole systems, as in Russia and Germany, Cambodia, China, whole systems of brutality were developed.
We have always been defined by the stories we tell as a species. Stories of great love, heroism, courage. Stories that strive to make us better, to give us hope when the times get dark. This is the story of Karel Čapek, a man who tried to change the world and warn us against the dangers he saw in the world around him.
So certainly you have a celebration of new forces, new powers, new machines at play in society. Mostly these forces were dressed up, camouflaged, hidden to a certain extent. We can certainly see it in the art of the period, the long flowing ornate lines of Art Nouveau, I think in particular, are an attempt to disguise or contain these massive forces, because it's not just mechanical forces, electrical forces that are let loose. It's also the hands that operate them.
It was time for change. The new generation of artists and thinkers reacting against the old naturalistic movements which they now saw as stagnant and dated. Grounding their ideas in the scientific inventions and original currents of thought, they worked to create a vivid new language to describe this transformative experience.
Je to start nějaký moderního pojmosloví, tvarosloví, objevování nových forem, takže spíš je to, já si myslím, že tam spíš taková ta nejistota a snaha hledat něco nového. To byl jejich odpověď na to, co se děje ve světě. Ani tehdy netušili sami, že tvoří něco, co bude za 100 let populárnější než ve své době.
Čapek's optimism for the new changes in culture and society slowly began to fade with the advent of the First World War. He saw the way technology was being used not for his hoped improvement of the humankind, but rather as a system of control and destruction. He began to write stories warning against the dangers he saw happening around him, such as war, overdependence on technology, and the destruction human beings are capable of committing with its help. For these dystopian visions, he is now considered to be among the originators of the science fiction genre. His most famous of these is RUR, written in 1920, in which the word robot first appeared. This is a story about a great inventor and philosopher, Rousseau, who discovers a new and easier way to create life through chemical synthesis. Using this revolutionary process, he creates the robot, an artificial worker with the least amount of needs and mechanically superior to humans. They have an astonishing intellect, but lack the capacity to feel. He built a factory to mass produce them as a new cheap labor force. The success of his new invention is immense, and the robots are soon exported throughout the world to replace human workers. Soon, people become bored and rise up against their mechanical counterparts. The factory owners and governments equip the robots with weapons and set them against the human demonstrators, eventually whole nations becoming wiped out in conflict.
There's a key moment in RUR when I think it's Russell Jr. says the most important invention is the timetable. More important than homework, more important than Kant, the timetable is what's true. And what we've seen over the 18th and 19th century is an encroaching synchronization of human experience, so that we no longer wake up with the sun and go to bed with the moon, but rather the day itself becomes artificially stretched and shaped, becomes quite plastic in a way. And I think this is where the real dread lies, in the fact that there is this kind of uniformity of behaviour and experience regulated by timetables, regulated by plot, regulated by the production line.
Munich, 1938. German Chancellor Adolf Hitler arrives for a conference to be held here with British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. This meeting will long be remembered, for it opens the door to the dreams of dictatorship.
We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
Peace in our time.
He loved people in England, but of course I would think that Munich probably killed him. He just couldn't believe that his Britain would have betrayed him. And then he lost sense of living.
When the political situation was really bad at that time, he struggled a lot. He even invites some Germans at that time to talk to them. He sent a message to the world through radio. He risked his life. I mean, who could do such a thing today, or even at that time? I'm from Bosnia. I was in the war, unfortunately. I was maybe 16, 17, and the war took my best age, my best period of my life. And then I found so many answers in Čapek works. Čapek tries not just to talk about those problems, but also to solve, to give the solution, how to release the problem. He was really one of the greatest writer ever. It's not just like that he was that he was invited for a Nobel Prize for 7 times. Unfortunately, he died so young, so he didn't have a chance to get any of those. But for us who are in love with Čapek works and his life, we really think he deserved even more Nobel Prizes for his work.
Takže já bych se obracela k mladým lidem skutečně, aby si k němu cestu našli. Už proto, že ten Karel Čapek taky tak jednoduše se ke všemu nedostal. On sice byl umělec velmi nadaný, ale kolik času věnoval tomu, aby dával dohromady lidi, aby jim naslouchal a uměl ty jejich potřeby a touhy přenést dál, vyjádřit, uměl je k sobě přivádět a uměl, bych to řekla nejlépe, já nechci říct bránit mír, ale chtěl, aby lidi k sobě, ať jsou jakékoliv barvy nebo jakéhokoliv světového názoru, ale aby k sobě našli úplně jednoduchou lidskou cestu a mohli pracovat poctivě, uživit se, aby jeden se nenadřazoval na druhým. A to, ať je doba byla minulá nebo je budoucí, to je všem nám dáno společně. Že musíme být spolu, vytvářet něco dál, proto poznání lidské lepší, aby opravdu ti lidi tam to hledali, aby nehledali jednoduchá pozlátka nebo nějaké extra, nevím, informace banální. Přemýšlet nad tím, to je důležité u něho.
What happens now is we live our lives in relation to an algorithm as yet unexpressed, which is saying, you know, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, go to work. You go to work, you earn some money, that allows you to spend. So it's all very, there's a system, and the system is becoming much more highly developed in the levels of its integration. And escape and resistance is much more complicated than had been thought of by the protagonists of the early science fiction films.